As soon as she walked in, it was like a light bulb went off and the sun was on her.
At 74, Richard Gere stunned the press with a confession that hit harder than any blockbuster role. He didn't brag about Pretty Woman or American Gigolo. He spoke about heartbreak and growth. He admitted, "I didn't get divorced because they were wrong. I got divorced because I wasn't good enough to hold on." That single line froze every microphone in the room. The one-time most charming man in Hollywood finally realized that real love means becoming the right person, not just finding one. For decades, he dazzled the planet, dating world-class beauties, marrying an A-list supermodel, and soaking up endless red carpet praise. Yet he had to wait almost 70 years to feel a love that didn't demand performance, a partner who wanted him to stay, not change. Richard Gere declared with shining eyes, "She is the true love of his life." That vow turned whispers into thunder. Long before the tuxedos and paparazzi, Richard was a lanky kid from Pennsylvania blowing jazz on a trumpet, writing music for school plays, and diving into philosophy at the University of Massachusetts. Then he dropped it all for theater, craving a stage where he could live many lives at once. Early on, he learned to charm every room, on screen and off. That magnetism pulled in brilliant, daring women at breakneck speed. Carol Mallory called him a jewel shooting across the sky. Dawn Steele, who later shattered glass ceilings in Hollywood executive suites, shared wild late-night edits with him. Penelope Milford of Days of Heaven stayed through the entire 1970s. Sylvia Martin's Wisdom to Nepal introduced the Ben Lamas and opened the meditation door. Each romance burned bright, then vanished like fireworks. Back then, love felt more like a detour than a destination. Gere rocketed from looking for Mr. Goodbar to American Gigolo, but no one had taught him how to convince a woman to stay. Party whispers, camera flashes, and lonely hotel nights blurred into one glittering haze. He shone on the outside, yet felt hollow inside, so settling down never even made sense to him. Then came 1988. At a Beverly Hills barbecue thrown by legendary photographer Herb Ritts, 39-year-old Richard locked eyes with 22-year-old Cindy Crawford, fresh off magazine covers and runway fame. Sparks flew faster than the grill could heat. Two worlds collided. Hollywood's smooth leading man and fashion's hottest rising star. Within months, they shared a loft in New York, and the planet gasped. Everywhere you looked, their faces gleamed. Movie premieres, giant billboards, glossy covers. The pair became the living poster of 1990s glamour. Gere radiated cool elegance. Crawford embodied all-American beauty. Together they seemed unstoppable, the dream couple no headline could resist. Yet under those blazing spotlights, their rhythms clashed. Cindy sprinted from photo shoots to brand deals, still hunting for the thin line between real self and crafted image. Richard, wearied by 2 decades of being every viewer's fantasy, craved silence, long meditation sessions, and quiet corners far from zoom lenses. The stage was set for a collision neither fame nor beauty could fix. The whirlwind romance reached its peak in 1991 with a shockingly simple Las Vegas wedding. Silver foil rings, no guests, no press, just 2 lovers clutching hope. But a quick "I do" can't meant a widening gap. When Richard sat cross-legged in silent retreats, Cindy dashed through airports chasing campaigns. He sought peace and stillness. She chased purpose and motion. She later confessed, "I tried to become the woman he needed, and then I lost myself." The silence between them grew louder than any scandal. By 1995, the perfect couple dissolved in a whisper. No lawsuits, no ugly words. Reporters groped for drama, yet found only questions. Nearly 30 years later, Gere offered one quiet answer. He had loved a woman still discovering who she was, and he had expected love to anchor her. One soul was still flying while the other had already landed. After the split, Richard disappeared from tabloid romances. Gone were glossy shoots with supermodels. He journeyed across Asia, deep in his study of Tibetan Buddhism, and chose slower, weightier film roles. In that calm, Carey Lowell appeared, a former Bond girl with grace instead of glitter. She felt like a harbor after endless storms. They started dating in 1995, building a life away from flashing bulbs. In 2000, their son, Homer James Jigme, arrived, and fatherhood at 51 gave Gere new purpose. 2 years later, they exchanged vows in a secluded ceremony in Pound Ridge, New York. No red carpet, no wild applause, just family, fresh air, and a vegetable garden waiting to sprout. For a while, tranquil routines masked deeper drift. Gere spent hours meditating, sometimes vanishing to Tibetan monasteries. Carey, though rarely on screen, still craved social buzz, friendly dinners, and movement. Gradually, public events showed them alone, one on stage, the other missing. Nobody spoke it, yet the distance shouted. In 2013, Carey filed for divorce after 18 years together, citing irreconcilable differences. Friends whispered that she felt locked out of her husband's inner world, living in a house whose spirit belonged only to him. Gere believed silence meant peace, until silence cracked everything. He later admitted, "When quiet lasts too long, it isn't calm, it's a warning, and I missed it." The legal fight dragged for 3 years, not over broken hearts, but over $45 million assets and scattered real estate. In the middle of courtrooms and accountants, they agreed on one shining victory: shared custody of their sensitive son, Homer, whose calm mirrored his father's gaze. When papers were finally signed, neither star lashed out. No one cheated. No one lied. They were simply two genuine people who followed their true natures until their paths no longer touched. The world saw an ending. Gere saw another lesson. Love isn't a spotlight, a trophy, or a rescue plan. It's a quiet skill you practice every single day. After Carey Lowell, Richard Gere seemed to vanish from every camera. No award shows, no red carpet flashes, no late-night interviews. Just a sudden hush that baffled fans and editors everywhere. The world pictured him as a quiet dad tending gardens and roaming temple courtyards with prayer beads. Then, right when he quit searching, a surprise romance flickered into view. Early 2014 found Gere, still tangled in divorce papers, standing beside a new smile, Padma Lakshmi, the dazzling author, model, and Top Chef host. Reporters sprinted for headlines, yet nothing firm surfaced. No hand-in-hand strolls, no joint interviews, only whispers that they met backstage at charity gala, talked for hours, and later shared candlelit sushi in Manhattan. Each carried fresh wounds that still stung. Gere was closing an 18-year marriage filled with silence and lawyers. Padma had just stepped away from heartbreak with billionaire mentor Ted Forsman, loving guide to her young daughter. Their short months together felt like two weary travelers sharing tea at midnight. Gentle comfort rather than thunderbolt passion. Insiders swore Gere found quiet joy with Padma. Long talks, simple vegetarian meals. No roles to play, no audience to impress. Yet their paths pointed opposite directions. Gere craved afternoons of chanting, incense, and slow breathing. Padma thrived on studio lights, cookbook signings, and nonstop global events. After 6 calm months, they parted as loyal friends. No fights, no scandal, just a soft nod that their calendars refused to match. Out of that brief tale, one lesson blazed. Gere had finally slowed down. He was not loving from loneliness, not stuffing emptiness with applause. He understood that harmony cannot be forced, and love alone will not make another person stay. With that truth carved into his heart, the urge to hunt for affection dissolved. Gere stopped expecting sparks, stopped waiting for miracles. Precisely then, without noise or pressure, his final chapter walked toward him, Alejandra Silva. People love to claim that love finds you when you quit searching, and this time the saying proved true. After 3 divorces, countless glamorous yet fragile romances, and years bouncing between monasteries, refugee camps, and movie sets, Gere finally sat still. No chasing, no mask, nothing left to prove. Alejandra was no runway legend, no Hollywood headliner. She was a Spanish activist with calm eyes, sandy blonde hair, and a heart set on ending homelessness. She never dreamed she would trust romance again. Recently divorced, raising her son alone, and directing Madrid's Rice Foundation, She even slept on sidewalks to feel the street's raw chill. She once said, "I don't do charity work to be seen. I do it because if I can't give my whole self to it, I'd rather not do it at all." Friends later joked that fate scored its grand finale on those Amalfi cliffs, and not even Gere's famous cool could hide the spark in his eyes. In 2014, at her family's hotel in sunlit Positano, destiny nudged Gere and Alejandra together. He was weary from courtrooms. She was drained from her own divorce. Yet when their eyes met, they saw a peaceful future waiting to bloom. Gere moved first in his quiet style. Fresh flowers arrived every dawn. Tiny melodies appeared on folded paper, and handwritten notes whispered that he would stay if she needed a steady hand. Alejandra hesitated. 33 years separated their birthdays, and she feared becoming just another headline in his storied past. Gere never pushed with flashy promises. He waited. He stood beside her with patience until she realized this was not a performance. It was a home. In April 2018, they married during a small Buddhist ceremony in New York. Alejandra converted by choice, explaining, "I didn't ignore the age difference, but when karmic energy between two people is strong enough, differences become secondary." She later told Ola, "Meeting Richard Gere felt like someone reaching out, pulling me out of the dark, and showing me the way. I was lost. He was a light." They settled on Gere's peaceful estate in Pound Ridge, land he once shared with Carey Lowell, yet felt brand new. No walls, no secrets, only open doors and birdsong. They lived like true partners. No control, no forced roles, just respect. In 2019, their first son, Alexander, arrived, and joy burst across the quiet home. The next year, a second baby boy joined the family. They kept his name private, yet shared glowing photos of tiny hands stretching toward autumn sunlight. Alejandra's posts showed family walks, shared meditation, and toddlers chasing butterflies. Gere laughed when reporters asked the secret. "She is the funniest, smartest, bravest woman I know. I do not need her to change, and I do not need to act like a perfect husband. We just stay close without endless explanations." Alejandra echoed the praise, calling him the kindest man I've ever met. He still writes songs for her each morning and surprises her with flowers long after the vows. She fights for shelter rights and pulls him to rallies when cameras sleep. He rocks their babies to dreamland and guards family time like treasure. How do they keep love alive? They do not cling. They walk side by side with understanding, not control. One soul leans toward silence, the other toward action, yet they share the same deep rhythm of care. This is not fierce youth passion. It is mature love born from breakage that never destroyed their faith. A man divorced 3 times and a woman who survived shattered vows finally discovered the truth. Love is never about gripping tight. It is about making sure the person beside you never feels forced to stay. Today, neighbors in Pound Ridge often spot the pair pushing strollers at dawn, laughing about garden weeds, or swapping stories about shelter projects and Zen teachings. Their life may look quiet, yet every sunrise feels like a standing ovation crafted just for them. When asked about his wife, Gere smiled and said, "She is the most generous woman I've ever known with others and with me." That simple line says it all. No grand declarations, just quiet truth. Some loves ignite in fireworks. Some endure through vows. But Richard Gere and Alejandra Silva share a bond born from completeness, not need. They arrived whole, no one expecting the other to fix missing pieces or play a movie-style hero. She never needed him to be a screen romance. He never sought her as a copy of past loves. They met with nothing to prove and no roles to perform. No media deals, no stage photo ops. Just Richard's morning songs, Alejandra's peaceful dinners, and children's laughter booming louder than any tabloid frenzy. People say, if you want someone to stay, never make them feel they must try so hard. Gere took decades to learn that lesson. Alejandra, healing from a painful divorce, discovered too that true love never costs you yourself. It sets you free to be your real self. They don't control calendars or demand explanations. They simply show up, present, and let trust grow in silence. Once the face lighting every screen, Gere now lives behind closed gates. No reporters, no red carpets, no recycled interview scripts. At 74, he's vanished from Hollywood hype. If he acts, it's in quiet indie films that need no box office roar. Mornings begin in a farmhouse at Pound Ridge. He brews coffee for Alejandra himself, no assistant in sight. He strolls with their dog along misty stone paths, tends a vegetable garden, and dives into Buddhist writings. Evenings bring piano melodies for 2 young sons, and rides to school in a battered old SUV. Real life, no stunt doubles. He still champions causes, Tibet human rights, homelessness, but now in silence. No speeches, no live streams, no glittering awards. Alejandra leads a Rise Foundation in Spain, helping the homeless because it matters, not for applause. Their family shares only quiet glimpses, an autumn forest walk, a Christmas card reading. From our home to yours, wishing you peace. Gere once said, "I don't need Hollywood to know I exist." He never formally retired. He just stepped back and let life's simplest role take center stage. Richard Gere's greatest role today isn't on screen, but at home as husband, father, and peaceful soul. After 3 marriages and countless headlines, he discovered that love isn't about gripping tight. It's about letting someone stay because they choose to. Which chapter of Gere's love story moved you most? The Whirlwind with Cindy Crawford? The Silent Years with Carey Lowell? Or the Tranquil Bond with Alejandra Silva? Share below. If you believe love often arrives late, comment, "Yes, I think so." Don't miss more star journeys. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for our next deep dive into Hollywood hearts.